podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for All About Android is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Ting.com. Ting is a new mobile phone service that makes sense. Save money with Ting, pay for what you use, doesn't require a contract, and offers unlimited devices on one pooled plan. To save $25 on your first Ting device, visit allaboutandroid.ting.com. That's allaboutandroid.ting.com. Hello and welcome to All About Android, episode 95, recorded on Tuesday, February 5th, 2013. We are your weekly source for the latest news, apps, and hardware for the Android faithful. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Gina Trapani.
Hello. It's good
Hi.
to be back. It's good to be back with you, Gina. I'm sorry
Welcome
to say
back.
that Ron is out. He's traveling out and about, but we have an awesome fill-in guest, as always, Aaron Newcomb. We're stoked to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm kind of
Absolutely.
like Ron. You just add a double A.
Yes, exactly.
So I'm the double A version of Ron.
Anywhere in the Google Doc that we had Ron in there, Aaron just put two A's before the Ron, and
works.
it's brilliant. It works.
It works. So.
You don't really have to remove Ron from the doc.
Right,
Just
right.
adding you. Well, we're stoked to have you. We have a lot to discuss this week. Wine, which I think stands for Wine is not an emulator,
right? That's right.
Kind of recursive on Android. That's kind of interesting. A walkthrough of XBMC, the official build of XBMC for Android, the elusive HTC M7 that we keep hearing about, Ouya, and so much more. Lots of stuff to talk about. But who saw the Super Bowl? Did we? No? Yes?
I did.
I didn't watch the Super Bowl, but I did see the Samsung commercial.
Yeah?
Yeah,
What did you think?
I saw it.
What'd you, yeah?
Not a huge fan. I gotta be honest.
I thought it was kind of cute.
I thought it was
If
funny.
that's
Some of the
right
stuff
word.
was funny, but I mean, they didn't actually introduce anything. I mean, they didn't.
Yeah,
it was just
no.
like name recognition, brand recognition, but no. There's like, yeah. I thought for a while I wasn't even paying attention to the jokes because I was like, is that a new phone? Is that a new tablet? Like,
they about
what
to
are they going to
reveal?
talk about? You know, and it was basically just, no, let's get a couple of well-known people in here and build the brand up a little bit. So, well, that's okay.
Yeah, if you like Seth Rogen, if you like whatever his
Paul
Rudd, there we go.
Yeah.
And then if you like the guy from what is the show? It's with the
Breaking Bad.
The Breaking Bad. There we
Yeah.
go.
He's the
he
lawyer on
actually
Breaking
actually
Bad.
directed Ace Ventura, by the way.
Oh, do you really?
Yes, he did.
Oh, I love him on Breaking
and
Bad.
I can't
He's
even
great.
remember his name. His real name.
I wanted them to talk about the device. Like I had the same reaction. I was like, okay, now they're gonna show us, the device.
Yeah.
But it seemed just like it was just sort of making fun of celebrity endorsements and commercials, and then we didn't get to talk about the device.
Yeah, totally. It was not at all about the devices necessarily. It was all about the look who we got and hey, we're making a bunch of jokes and
Yeah.
we're going to make an impression on you.
Yeah, and I think the
Exactly.
funny thing for me, I can see this actually happen. I bet Samsung actually got these guys to come in and they're like, what could we do? Let's just do
Right.
this. Like, they probably started coming up with some ideas, and then they're like, well, let's just do this, and so
Lazy.
yeah, I think so
Lazy.
too. Especially when you're paying that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It
Oh,
was so
my
long.
goodness.
It's a pretty long commercial, and they're spending a bazillion dollars per second. It just felt like, oh, this was the commercial
Yeah.
that you spent, crazy budget on.
Totally.
Sorry, Samsung.
Yeah. Well, nice try. Samsung's had some pretty interesting commercials in the past, so
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll come back in a
I
while.
thought their previous commercials were more creative. They did have
Yeah.
some good one-liners in this one,
Yeah.
Like they said, you could send them into the galaxy with the galaxy.
Right.
And what was the other one? I like the part where he said, Seth could be the baby in the commercial, and he's like, but I'm not wearing a diaper. And the Samsung guy goes, but you'll wear a diaper for Samsung, right? He's like, yes, I'll wear a diaper for Samsung. So,
Exactly.
it was
And
pretty
the big feature was like you can draw on his face with
right.
the S Pen. I was
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah.
And I've seen other commercials they've kind of showed that off, and I guess that's cool. I don't know. I want more.
Yeah.
I've never
more
seen
features.
anyone do that in real life, except for like my kids.
Oh, right,
But I've
right.
never seen anyone actually be like, "Oh, this is so cool." It's I don't know.
Here, I'll give you
gonna
this
put a
image
mustache
with a
on.
little flower that I just put on.
Right,
Here you
right.
go.
Right.
Totally. Well, enough about Samsung's silly commercial. Let's dive into the news and talk about serious stuff. All right, as always happens this time of the month, we have the platform numbers for Android, and just not a lot of changes actually. Gingerbread still holding the lead with 45.6%. Ice Cream Sandwich down actually 0.1% to 29%, and then Jelly Bean is up 3.6% from last month, which is a nice jump for Jelly Bean to 13.6%. We're almost kind of equal with the new the kind of new design language versions of Android as compared to Gingerbread, but kind of getting closer and closer.
I always throw those two in together, Ice Cream Sandwich and Jelly Bean. Anyway,
totally.
I mean, when I talk to people about what kind of phone should I get, I'm like, well, get one with something that at least has Ice Cream Sandwich or Jelly Bean. But to me, in my mind, they're so close anyway that I don't count them separately. I know they are here for these stats, but.
4.0 and above, right, is really what you want to.
Yeah.
What you want. I totally agree. We're moving in the right direction, which is fantastic. Still wanting to see that Gingerbread stranglehold loosen a little bit more, but as you know, we've brought it before on the show. 2-year contracts are coming up right this year.
Yep.
Gingerbread, and we should see more movement. It's never fast enough for me, but it's getting better.
Never fast enough. Yeah, and I'm hoping someday that won't be my opinion, and that it'll actually surprise me. But Jelly Bean, you're seeing a lot of new devices. They're all launching with Jelly Bean. Thankfully, it's kind of gotten to that point that seems to happen with every new release, where the release previous, it's like if you're releasing with that version, then you're doing it wrong. And thankfully, we're kind of there significantly with Jelly Bean. It's like if the hardware manufacturers are releasing a new phone, I don't know if it's easier to push with one versus the other, but it makes perfect sense for them to come out with Jelly Bean. So I'm really hoping that we see that progression with Jelly Bean jump a lot faster. Of course, right around the corner, Google I/O, and it's rumored that that Honeycomb is going to be, or sorry, not Honeycomb. What am I talking about?
Key lime pie.
Key lime pie. There we go. Wouldn't that be surprising? Hey, we're going back to Honeycomb. But key lime pie coming out or being announced at Google I/O, so adding another twist to the whole pie, I guess. So I guess we'll see. But
it sounds like last stop before Key Lime Pie drops, there's going to be Android 4.2.2, which will be an update to Jelly Bean. Android Authority reports that IB Times had some sources inside the company at Google, who asked not to be named, who said that they're testing out Android 4.2.2 on Nexus devices, the 4, the 7, and the 10, as well as the Galaxy Nexus. And apparently this is supposed to come out this month, February or March, and this will be the last Jelly Bean release before Key Lime Pie gets announced. No word on what's in Android 4.2.2, and I have to tell you, because it's 4.2.2, that to me that sounds like that's a patch release, right? It's not, the last Jelly Bean release, that 4.1 to 4.2 had a lot more features, the camera, a lot of updates, but a dot patch, the very minor. There's usually a major dot minor dot patch. It's probably just going to be bug fixes, most likely. Yeah. That's my guess.
Yeah, and hopefully, I know that there's been a lot of complaints about Bluetooth issues with 4.2. I haven't experienced it on my phone, but I don't really use Bluetooth a whole lot. But I know a lot of people are really hoping that some of those get fixed. So hopefully 4.2.2 addresses some of those complaints there. So that's probably going to happen any day now, because as we said, I/O is right around the corner, so we've got to push that out before we get there. But I thought this was interesting. Wine, which is Wine is not an emulator; it's basically a Windows emulator.
Right.
And I'm happy that you're here, Aaron, because you'll do a lot better job of kind of explaining this, because I haven't had firsthand experience with Wine as an emulator. Have you used it yourself?
Yeah, so I've run Wine on Linux for years and years, with various degrees of success. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes there's a lot of monkeying you have to do to get it to work. But people that want to play games, especially on a Linux platform, do use Wine because they don't want to run Windows. So they emulate Windows. Now, this is actually out of FOSDEM in Brussels. They were actually demonstrated this in an Android emulator, I believe. I don't think it was an actual device. They were using an Android emulator.
Yeah.
And they were able to get Wine up and running on Android. So what that means potentially is that you could bring in games or other apps, maybe even, an old version of Office, for example, and run that on your Android device, be it a tablet or phone or what have you. So this is kind of cool. I mean, if I've been running, personally, I've been running DOS emulators on the phone for a while, playing some old school DOS games, and they work really, really well. And so if the same can be done with Wine, I think it's really great. Now, the only issue I see here, even though it's cool, is, like I said at the beginning, you have various degrees of success with this, and a lot of times it requires a lot of monkeying with scripts and drivers and DLL files to get things to work. So the question I have, and I didn't really see it addressed in the article that this is from, I didn't really see how difficult it was to get things up and running. If you have to do a lot of that importing of DLLs and things like that, I don't think a lot of people will want to be bothered, trying to run these old Windows apps. But I don't know. I'll do it, but I don't know how the general public, will they really be? It's
Totally.
Cool and all, but is it going to require a lot of issues? Now, what would be neat to see come out of this is a way to ease the installation of a lot of these apps. So it's like, I can see them having, you install Wine and then you install like a helper script or something for if you want to get Office up and running, for example. I'm just guessing, but I mean, I think you would have to have something like that to make this actually usable for the general public.
Yeah, it kind of seems like the kind of thing that the true kind of hardcore geeks, people that are willing to kind of spend the time getting in there and monkeying around and figuring it out, making it work and all that. Obviously, obviously they're going to love this. Even beyond that, just as a proof of concept, like, hey, look what we can do with Android, because that's kind of like the beauty of Android, is that you can do all these things relatively, not easily, but eventually these solutions come out of the woodwork and it's possible, whereas on other platforms maybe it's not. So
I think it becomes more interesting as these dedicated devices start to spring up, where you have actually a bigger display or a big tablet or a big laptop / tablet device that you want to do this on. And there's also companies out there like Codeweavers that actually, it's a subscription service, I believe. You pay, I think I was signed up at one point, but they actually give you all those tweaks I was talking about. It's like, we'll guarantee that this will run for you on Wine. You just have to run our version of it, and all the DLLs that you need and everything are in there. So, the fact that it can work means that other people can come in, maybe Codeweavers, maybe another company could come in and do all the dirty work for you. So that's always an option as well.
Yeah, they did. Let's see here. It was Phoronix.com had written up the article on this and said that performance in the demonstration was really, really slow. But
that's
as you said,
not surprising.
Yeah, as you said, it was also running inside of an emulator.
An emulator running on an emulator.
Right, exactly. So it definitely
recursive emulation.
Exactly. But yeah, I love seeing this. I just love seeing that it's possible.
Right.
And these kind of things. Will I use it myself? I don't know. I'd probably end up loading it. Just loading up a couple of things just to see if it works. And
oh, look, I can play Minesweeper. Woohoo!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, that's what I need is Minesweeper on my Android. But cool stuff nonetheless. Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor. We haven't had this sponsor for a long time, so we're super stoked to welcome back Ting. And you may be asking yourself, what is Ting? Ting is a no BS mobile service. Basically, it's an MVNO, so they're a reseller of the nationwide Sprint network. And they're very different from a lot of the other solutions out there. There's no contracts or early termination fees. They're truly and completely contract-free, so you don't have to deal with all that BS. There's no bundling or ride-along services, so you can choose from basically a range of different service levels for your voice minutes, text messages, megabytes of data. All of those are billed separately to you. You have total control over that. It's very, very handy. They even have a calculator where you can kind of go through and select all the different plans and mix and match and see what it comes back with. There are no overage charges or penalties. You get credits on unused services. So if you use less than you thought you were going to, Ting actually drops you down to the level you hit and then credits the difference for you on your next bill. There's no add-on charges like things for voicemail, caller ID, tethering, hotspot, three-way calling, call forwarding. All these features are part of the service. You don't get charged extra for that, which is pretty sweet. No strange line items on your bill. I mean, when I look at my Verizon charges, so often there's things that kind of jump out at me, and I'm like, I don't even know why that's there or where that comes from. Ting charges you what you use plus whatever taxes are legally required. No hidden charges beyond that. Unlimited devices on one plan. So you can have as many devices as you want on one plan, sharing just a pooled number of minutes, messages, megabytes, all that's shared between the number of devices you have. And each device on the plan costs a flat $6 per month. They have just a very powerful online account control panel to where you can kind of take control of your account and your usage, see your bills, and have complete control over it from there. Excellent customer support with no holds. They promise no hold customer support at 855-TING-FTW at any time between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern. And a real person is going to pick up the phone when you call. That's awesome. How many times have I spent minutes to hours just waiting on hold when I call my phone company trying to get somebody on the line to ask them just one single question? Just excellent support all in all, as well as online support at help.ting.com. And, you can just go there and browse their devices. They have a ton of really good Android devices. Specifically, you can find the Galaxy S3, the LG Optimus G, which is basically the Nexus 4, minus the Nexus part of it. The Galaxy Nexus is there. You can also get the Galaxy Note 2. They just have a lot of different devices. One thing you'll notice is that you're paying a little bit more for the device, for sure, because it's an unsubsidized price. But then you get all of the discounts and the lower cost on your service on the other side of it. So you're basically buying the device outright, and you own the device at that point. You're not subsidizing with a promise that you pay more down the line. You get your device within 2 to 5 business days, then you activate the device. You have the option to select a new phone number, port an existing one if you have a number that you want to port over, and you can select, as I said, monthly minutes, messages, megabytes plan to the plan, and be billed based on what you used. So here's what I want you to do. Check out Ting yourself. It's very cool. I know that Gina, Chad, I know both of you have actually used Ting. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. It's a really good experience. Ting sponsors the show I do on 5x5, and my mother-in-law is like ready to upgrade to a smartphone. She's like, I need to look at pictures of the baby right at work. Like I need a smartphone. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to Ting, and I bought a Samsung Transform Ultra, which is like $200 or so, but you can get a refurb for like 76, which is a really great price. Mm-hmm. And I got like this really cheap data plan, like this $10 a month data plan. That the interface is really nice for choosing your devices. They have these kind of like one-line descriptions that are like, this is what you're going to get with this. So like with the Transform Ultra, it's like, hey, this is the top end of the mid-range. And I kind of was like, I want to see, what it would be like if I were my mother-in-law buying a phone, right? Like price is important to her, but I want her to get like a decent handset, right? Yeah. And the whole experience was great. I love just the idea of not getting ripped off by my cell phone bill every month, and it really doesn't feel that way at all. And I just like this company. They also, this is Two Cows, they do Hover as well for domain registration, which I really like. So yeah, I'm big fan of Ting. Love it.
Awesome. Well, this all sounds great. It's making me really second guess my my Verizon bill, because I know it's a heck of a lot more than everything that I've just told you guys about. Visit Ting today for yourself. You can visit it at allaboutandroid.ting.com. It's a little long, but stick with me there. Allaboutandroid.ting.com. You can save money and better manage your mobile phone usage with Ting, and check out their savings calculator to see exactly how much you or your company can save. All About Android viewers also save an addition $25 actually on your first Ting device when you sign up. So visit allaboutandroid.ting.com. Start saving today. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode of All About Android. Ting, you guys are awesome, and I think it's a perfect fit. All right, without further ado, let's dive into hardware. So,
oh, man, I wanted more ado.
You want more ado? How?
I was hoping for the ado.
Much ado about HTC. How about that? HTC's CEO Peter Chow briefly revealed the long-rumored M7 phone. We've been hearing a lot about the M7 over the past few months at the company's year-end party, giving folks basically the first official glimpse at the anticipated device. There's a little video that you can find at The Verge, as well as a little snapshot. It's not much to go on. Actually, that's them chanting, I think.
Yeah, you have to be able to translate, right, from the...
Right, but that's all of the employees freaking out about HTC. But the phone, it's basically sources have told PocketLint that the M7 it's a 4.7-inch, what is it, a 4.7-inch screen, I believe. But the differentiator, the thing that HTC is hinging on this, is that it doesn't necessarily have a 13-megapixel camera as previously believed, but rather a brand new camera hardware made up of 3 separate 4.3 megapixel sensor layers being thrown into a single image. So basically, 3 bits of data combine into 1 pixel, making the image cleaner, more color accurate, all that kind of stuff. What do you guys?
Which could be true. I mean, they're calling this ultra pixels instead of megapixels. So I think it's kind of funny. But I mean, it could be true if you think about it. I mean, this technology's been around for a while, and even when you take a high-res picture on your phone, high-definition HDR image on your phone, it takes 3 different images, 3 different pictures, basically, with various settings, and then blends them together. So, I don't think it's. I think this is actually a good thing. It's not going to give you zoom. It's not going to give you, some of the other things that are inherently missing in most smartphone designs. But it should give you a really, really good image. So.
That's really important to me.
It is.
I don't know. How important is that to you guys?
It's got to be really important for you, Gina, right? I mean, you're taking a lot of photos now, so.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. I love the Galaxy Nexus, but the camera, sometimes I'm just not, like, the baby smiles for half a second, and if I don't catch it, I get so frustrated. I think that there's still a lot of really good work that can be done in the cameras and these devices. This sounds interesting.
Yeah, and I think that I think they're really counting on the M7 to kind of boost their sales and give them some more recognition as a major player. But I'm not sure this is going to be able to. I don't know if this is going to be as big, for example, as the one. Was it the 1X? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That one was pretty big last year, right? Yeah, that was pretty big. And I think that one actually did boost their cred in the marketplace, in the mobile marketplace. I'm not sure the M7 is going to do it. I mean, we'll have to see what other bells and whistles they throw into this phone, but it seems like a one more, more of the same type of a thing right now. Whereas the 1X was like, oh wow, like it had really good resolution, and people were doing comparisons between it and the iPhone.
Great design.
Yeah, so. We'll see. I mean, it's obviously from the meeting that they held they're pretty excited about it. But
yeah, well,
let's hope it does, because I mean, more competition is better. Samsung needs somebody to come alongside and give them a run for their money, I think.
Yeah, put fire to their feet.
Yeah, and I've always kind of been pushing behind HTC. I've always really liked their design, their hardware specifically. HTC needs a win right now. They're really not doing so great, and that's no surprise. On Monday, HTC reported a pretty disappointing outlook for the first quarter revenue, reporting flat to 17% lower than analysts' forecasts. So they need the M7 to do well, and they need that flagship phone, that flagship device to kind of turn the tide for them. I hope they can pull it off. But as we talked about this a little bit on Tech News Today this morning, and the point was made that show me the photos. Yeah, that's what it really, because you hear about a lot of these phones that have great cameras, and they tout they're excellent cameras, they're really fast, and blah blah blah. Just let's see the quality of the pictures, because ultimately, as far as this kind of differentiator is concerned, that's what matters most. Yep. And all that great hardware doesn't matter if the photos end up still looking just as blurry or just as missed that moment.
It's true. It's really the cameras that is the one thing that I miss from the iPhone.
Yeah.
It really is.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
The camera is the one thing that I'm always kind of hoping the next device I get is up to kind of my standard for what I want out of a camera in a phone. And I have yet to really be completely satisfied by that. Totally unrelated, but I just thought this was funny. HTC Thunderbolt, speaking of HTC, finally got its Android 4.0 upgrade. So they're going to Ice Cream Sandwich now. I think this was promised. So Ice Cream Sandwich obviously came out more than a year ago. This was promised 7 or 8 months ago, I think, to happen. And then it just kind of fell off into mystery land. And I think at this point, I had just assumed it wasn't going to happen, like they were going to forget about it. So props to HTC for sticking with, or, I'm sure it was Verizon was a big reason why this was delayed, but kind of sticking with it. And props to Verizon for finally actually rolling this out for the few people that still have the Thunderbolt.
But it's still kind of embarrassing at this point.
Oh, totally.
I mean, at this point, it dragged on so long. They should, and if they can get ICS to run on it, they could get Jelly Bean to run on it. Says the person who doesn't, engineer phones. But really, this is kind of an embarrassing news story at this point.
I completely agree, Gina. And what's funny to me, just on a personal note, is my wife has had a Thunderbolt. And, for the past 7 to 8 months, I've been like, just wait. Supposedly it's coming. I've thought about rooting and throwing Ice Cream Sandwich ROM on there, but even those aren't perfect. Like the camera hardware didn't work on any of those. My wife likes to take pictures with her phone, so that was out the window. 2 days ago, got her a Galaxy Nexus on Verizon. And, it's just the timing is, of course, hilarious to me because it's like, okay, so we finally moved on. And now you get Ice Cream Sandwich on your Thunderbolt.
Well, at least you have Jelly Bean, right? At least she's got Jelly Bean.
Believe me, she worked out better in this case.
Definitely.
She got the better of the deal.
Definitely.
Totally.
The Ouya, that's the kickstarted Android-based game console. They pre-orders start today. Retail availability in June. It'll be $99 or $100, $99.99, and an extra controller. You can get an extra controller for $50, and it'll be out in GameStop, Best Buy, Target, and Amazon. So this is huge. Great Kickstarter story, great sort of Android gaming console story. I wish that Ron was with us because I know that he's talked about how, the Android gaming console really needs that marquee game, the one game that launches on it and makes gamers want to get it. But I don't know. This thing looks really kind of cute and cool. I'm not much of a gamer, but I'm tempted.
Yeah, I ordered one.
Good.
As soon as it came out, so I'll bring it in when I get mine. They're still promising. I got a little update today because they knew this was going to hit the news, and they said, "Don't worry, if all the people that pre-ordered are going to get theirs before it hits the store, like we promised." They're a little worried about the people that pre-ordered getting upset that it was in the store, but it's actually really good news for them. And I think what it will do is this will signal to game developers that, hey, this is a real thing, right? So now I think they'll get more they already have a ton of game people developing for this, but I think this will really, maybe the big names, maybe the EAs or the Activisions of the world will, is that the same company? I don't know. They keep merging, but hopefully those kind of companies will start developing for this platform. It's a little bit of a risk for people to develop for this, because they're even though it's Android, they're still developing it with certain specifications and games that are written specifically for this platform, which, I'm just hoping that I'll be able to get those games as well as play the standard, Angry Birds and all those as well. So that's my hope. But I think that this is really good news for them. And, $100 is pretty good.
I mean, that's
a box.
Really good.
Yeah, it's a steal.
You can't even get like a used Wii for that with controllers on Craigslist. I know because I tried not too long ago. So, I think that's great, and I wish them the best, especially since I'm getting one in the mail. So.
Yeah, totally.
What's this going to run? Is this going to run just kind of a customized version of Jelly Bean, or have you seen, Aaron?
I certainly have not seen any, images or videos or anything at this point. I've seen images of the hardware. The hardware is built to be hackable, which I love. It's one of the reasons I bought it is because, you can basically press a button, take the shell off, and attach things to it or modify it or add more storage or it's supposed to be very easily very flexible and easy to hack. So I like that, but I'm waiting for a video. Like, show me what the interface looks like. It should look fantastic, right? It should look like XBMC or like the Xbox interface or like the Steam box interface, or was it the big picture on Steam? It should look something like that. So I hope that's what it looks like, but I haven't seen any images or videos of it yet.
Yeah, you could easily run like Plex or XBMC on something like this and be a media center as well as a gaming console, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, this is and solidifying Best Buy and Target and GameStop for distribution of something that was like a Kickstarter campaign.
That's huge.
That's incredible.
Really impressive.
And those are big. Those are great, big retail names. That's great.
Yeah, and like you said, Aaron, that right there is incentive, is big incentive for people to actually spend the time to port their games, to work perfectly with this hardware or whatever. Because when people are at Best Buy looking at their gaming options and they see a $99 console, capable of running games, and then they compare it to the other ones that are a lot more expensive.
Right.
That's a pretty solid deal right there.
I hope they go all out. I mean, I hope they have actual displays, where people can try it out and test it and play the games and things like that. The timing's a little interesting, and maybe this is just because of the way the Kickstarter happened, or who knows why. But I mean, it seems like this would be a perfect thing for Christmas time, to come out like in October, November. In those stores, because I bet people would scoop this up for Christmas for their kids, but or for themselves. In my case,
their inner kids.
Yes, their inner child.
Right.
So the timing's interesting. So we'll just have to see. I don't know. Do you guys know? Are there other? The Wii U's already out. Are there other consoles that are? There's a new Xbox. I don't know when that's supposed to be coming, but I think it's not till next calendar year or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably the worst person to ask because I'm so out of touch with the gaming stuff. But I know that there's some sort of big Sony PlayStation announcement coming in a few months, or something right around the corner. I doubt that means that the next PS, 4 or whatever it's going to be called, is going to hit by the end of the year. Cywism confirms PS4 announcement February 20th, possibly. So, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, no matter what, $100
$100 is going to beat anything that PlayStation or Microsoft can put out. So
yeah.
For folks who want to pre-order, you go to ouya.tv. It's OUYA.tv. You can pre-order there.
Ouya.
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 It is not accepted in Words with Friends. I tried it out the other day. Just so you know.
That's a bummer. Sometime soon. That's when you know you've made it.
That's right. When you're accepted as a word in Words with Friends, you've hit the big time.
That's right. So, Gina, I happened to notice a couple of days ago, you rolled out a kind of a redesign, a Holo redesign of todo.txt.
Yes, we did. I'm really excited about it. It was a long time in coming, and I'm kind of embarrassed. I'm in a bad spot, So I do this like weekend project kind of open source app to do text, and then I go on shows like this, and I talk about like really good Android design. But I get stuck in this like hypocritical, do as I say and not what I do.
Right.
When my app falls, my app isn't completely up to date. So this has been a long time in coming. I spent most of last year focusing on our iOS app. But To-Do Tech's user base is really kind of ahead of the curve. It's a pretty nerdy app. It's a text-based task list, and so 65% of my users are on 4.0 and above. About 25% are on 2.3. So we've been talking about Holo theming the app for a while. And this is the first iteration of the upgrade. It just came out this week. So you'll notice like the add task screen isn't quite there yet. We've only Holo themed the main list view. But happily, that's basically, where most users spend kind of 90% of their time. So we're well on our way. And this is a work in progress, and we're going to continue to iterate. But actually, it's an open source app. So one of my contributors, Mark Jansen, sent me the code to Holo theme it. And it was one of these things where I was like, it's on my to-do list. I got to look into this. I got to do it. And then I looked at the code he sent me, and I was like embarrassed that it was so simple, and like that I just hadn't taken the time to figure it out. It's actually very simple to do. So I kind of put on some finishing touches and did some testing, and I'm happy that the community got it out. I got a great community of developers over there.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought it would be kind of interesting just to bring this up on the show. I mean, because it's your app and it's an awesome app, and everybody loves to do and task apps regardless. So it's great to talk about it there. But just more along the lines from a developer standpoint, like updating an app to Holo is something that a lot of people want developers to do. But you're saying that it actually hasn't been that complicated of a conversion.
From a technical perspective, it was really not difficult. Now, the To-Do Text is a fairly simple app. I mean, it's basically a list and then, an input box to add tasks and update tasks. So I have a pretty simple app. But this upgrade was pretty simple. Basically, Android makes this really easy. You just define layouts in XML files, and you could define a layout for a particular API level and above, right? So this change was a very simple, like an addition of a new folder that was like layouts 14, because it's API level 14, and like use this layout here. So it's just a couple of new XML files. So when you run the app, Android says, what API level are we running? Oh, okay, use that layout versus the old layout.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the biggest pain in the butt doing this kind of thing is if your app is backwards. You know, my app is compatible 1.6, Android 1.6 and above, right? It kind of slows down testing because you want to make sure that it looks good and runs on every single version, right? So when I'm doing Android development, I've got my Jelly Bean simulator up, I've got my gingerbread simulator up, and I've got my donut simulator up, you know? And so you make a change and you deploy it to each of the simulators and make sure it works. And that just kind of slows down it's the fragmentation problem that we've all talked about, and that can slow down development excuse me, a little bit, but the benefits are huge. You know, I'm like I said, embarrassed that it took so long to start getting into the Holo theme, and you know, especially the big thing that was the benefit to us was the action bar, right? So the to text is basically just a list view, but what's nice about the action bar is that first of all, it doesn't force the menu button, right? So you don't have that force menu button on the new devices with that dot on the black area down the bottom, right? So the action bar gives you that drop down menu bar, and it's responsive in that if you're in portrait mode, you know, it shows a couple of items, then drops down to the rest. But if you go into landscape, it can sort of show more icons, you know, and that Android handles all of that. Like I don't have to do any of that stuff.
Yep.
Just really nice. And honestly, you can tell that it's a modern, you know, newish app. It bugged me now that I'm on the Galaxy Nexus full time. It's like looking at my own app, it just looked really old, and I hated that I used that old menu. It was just bugging me, you know, right? So a developer always works on the things that like annoy her the most.
Totally.
But the action bar was a nice benefit. It was totally worth it. I'm sorry that I waited as long as I did, and we're continuing to work on it and change over all the other screens, the filter screen and the ad screen. But yeah, the response has been really good. I mean, what's hard is that, like, you know, once you go to the action bar on the newer devices, if you make some changes to that, you know, you're kind of maintaining two different layouts. You know, for us, it's like gingerbread and jelly bean have these kind of two different layouts. But luckily, there's libraries that can help with that. Like my developers and I were talking about using Action Bar Sherlock, actionbarsherlock.com, which is kind of these libraries for the older versions that can give you that same action bar look. You know, which makes it nice that the app looks the same across versions, right? Because even just uploading screenshots to the Play Store, you're like, well, you want to show off the Holo version, but many of your users are using gingerbreads. You want to show what that looks like. So to have that one look across all the versions is really nice. So I think in future versions, we actually are going to do that. So everyone will get an action bar-ish look and feel, regardless of what version they're on.
Yeah, because I guess you don't have to be on Ice Cream Sandwich or Jelly Bean to be able to design an action bar into the interface on the older versions. So that makes perfect sense. In some ways it sounds like it's maybe even, you know, easier for a developer who is creating an app from scratch now, just creating for the new design aesthetic and not feeling the pressure to make it back compatible, because there's such a big kind of, you know, big difference between Ice Cream Sandwich and newer versus everything before that. So to come out, you know, a few years ago, whenever todo.txt came out initially, means you still kind of have to support. Now, you mentioned Donut. Do you still hear from users that are using your app that are running Donut, or
11 people running Donut using the app? One of them is one of my developers on another branch of the To Do Text project, not the Android branch, but I actually broke the 1.6 compatibility, and he said like, hey, I'm running I got the G1. I know, I'm slow to upgrade, but like, what the heck? Like, you should have fixed this. I'm going to fix it because you do a lot of great work for me in these projects. So I'm just going to, I find it an interesting sort of challenge to see, like, what do you have to do to make these apps kind of backwards compatible. But yeah, I think we're going to cut off 1.6. I think we're going to cut off Donut soon in the next few months, probably.
Yeah, you could almost use the Android distribution statistics as like your cutoff, because Cupcake isn't on there anymore. So, you know, don't have to worry about the Cupcake users anymore. They're not even on the list. Well, that's cool. Well, thanks for kind of going into some detail on that. I love hearing because I'm definitely not a developer personally, so a lot of this stuff is very foreign to me. But I love hearing about the experience, and ultimately encouraging other developers to kind of do something similar to this if it's not that much of a challenge or if it's not a huge hurdle to move over to Holo. I think that the benefits that you get as a developer by moving over are probably pretty huge. The app consuming public loves apps. They freak out about it. Anytime an old legacy app is upgraded to the Holo theme, people freak out about it, and it revitalizes your app. So it's a good thing to do. Yeah,
and Google is really obviously, they want to see people do this, right? Because they want people to move to the newer versions.
Absolutely.
They want the apps to have a consistent look. People that are on Ice Cream Sandwich and above especially, they want things to look consistent whenever possible. So there's some really good Google guides out there on how to upgrade and get the Holo theme integrated into your app. So definitely if you do a Google search on, Android Holo theme guide or anything like that, I mean, you'll see a lot of really good resources out there. Some of them from Google themselves or from the Android team. So definitely go check that out if you're interested. It's good to hear a personal experience that it wasn't too hard to do. So
absolutely,
it's great.
Really, it's bad. If you're a developer, like putting it off like I was for so long, just do it. It's really it's really fun, and it's really satisfying to kind of see your app look modern and clean. Whenever you do a release, people would say like, "But it's not Holo yet," and it's just like,
yeah.
So
totally, that's awesome. All right, well, we're already kind of talking about apps, so let's continue in the apps section.
Amazon is launching a new virtual currency for the Kindle Fire app called Coins. This is coming to the United States in May, and it's 1 Amazon coin to 1 cent. So it sounds like you can buy coins, and then you can purchase coins, and then Kindle Fire owners can then purchase apps and games and make in-app purchases on their tablets with those coins. And it sounds like this is kind of a thing, a kid thing. Like here's a budget or here's an allowance. Coins and you can do you can only spend this much. It's a little weird to have that kind of one-to-one. I guess it makes sense to have that one-to-one 1 cent to 1 Amazon coin, because why not just use money? But that's why I think it seems like it's targeted toward kids using the Kindle Fire. Totally,
and then they don't have to stipulate when you go to the Amazon App Store. Like it's 99 cents or 82 coins, so it kind of keeps it on parity. Yeah, when I first read this, I was like, man, that is so silly. That is why are you doing that? That's so confusing. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It really, when you give, and I think Amazon has kind of proven that they're paying a lot of attention to the needs of families and families with kids that might want to use those devices. They have their kind of kid mode. I can't remember what they called it, but they have their kid service, with a monthly service fee, and that gives children with a device access to a certain bit of unlimited content. Now this, I don't see why this is actually a bad thing. The more I think about it, I guess it kind of makes sense. What I'm happy to see is that they're keeping it on parity with the money that you spend. So 1 cent is 1 coin. It's when they start breaking it up and saying, one coin is actually 5 cents, or however, that the conversion basically plays to the favor of them, of Amazon, knowing full well that you're going to buy more coins than you're actually going to use because you're always going to end up with leftovers. So
that's why people do it. I mean, that's where they make their money. Right. I hate these systems personally. I think it's awful. But that's just me. If your kids want to buy something, just make them come to you and you buy it, right? But I know it seems like Amazon's doing this. It keeps people in their ecosystem, right? So they know that if parents or anybody, maybe it's a birthday gift for a relative or a loved one, you say instead of giving them money, you give them Amazon coins. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm sure that's what they're thinking, and like you said, I'm sure there's a profit involved in people buy stuff for 80 cents, and then there's 20 cents left over, and it just stays in their account, and so Amazon gets some additional revenue. But I hate these middleman systems. Like, I don't know. Do you guys play those games where you have to you play for a while, but then you can't get the really good stuff unless you actually put some money into it?
Yeah,
you
have to buy put money into it.
You have to buy their currency,
right,
and all that. I hate that kind of stuff, and I never buy it, and so. I don't know. I think it's goofy, but maybe that's just me.
I think it's
not just
Xbox
you.
Live points. Like today I bought my nephew, who's like whatever, 15 or 14 Xbox Live points, because that's just what he wants, and that's what he loves, and that system maybe because the Xbox ecosystem is just sort of so developed at this point, it doesn't bug me too much. I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense or whatever. I don't know if coins will ever get sort of as big as Xbox Live points. Do you guys buy Xbox points very often? I mean, it's the only sort of virtual currency system that hasn't really annoyed me too much. I'm like, okay, I get this.
Only because I've had
No,
to.
I'm a PC
Not because
gamer.
I've wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I've bought them because I have to. And I mean, the old man in me is like, come on, let's teach kids real money, not coins.
Right,
Like if they're going to be buying a game, teach them $2.99, not 299 coins. It feels like that disconnect is hurtful to kids, not helpful.
Yeah.
I think personally for me in my situation, I would do what you're saying, right? I would say if you want to buy something, talk to me and I'll buy it for you. I probably wouldn't do the coin thing. I don't know, like what is the difference then between coins and a gift certificate, right? Like it's kind of the same thing in this case,
I mean,
right?
I feel for this kind of system a little bit because, I know for like my son, for example, he's getting more into PC gaming because I'm into PC gaming. And so, we play Call of Duty and whatever, we played on the PC. And so when he got some gift cards for GameStop, he didn't want to get a Wii game. He wanted to get something on the PC. Luckily, GameStop has Steam cards. So he basically traded his $20 gift card for a $20 Steam card and then went back and bought Assassin's Creed 3 or something because that's what he wanted. So I can feel for this system a little bit. I just think that, it's kind of like Chad said. I mean, it's a something in the middle of this. I just don't see where it's good for the consumer. I can see where it's good for Amazon, like I said. I can see the benefits that they get out of it. I don't see the benefits that actual people get out of it. I really I think it was in Target the other day, and they've had these for a while now, these basically they're debit cards. So instead of giving someone a gift card for Starbucks, and maybe they don't like Starbucks, you just give them a debit card with $20 on it, and they can use it wherever the heck they want.
Yeah, totally.
Like why not just do that? And then I can spend it on Amazon if I want to. I can spend it on games if I want to. I can spend it on whatever. So
is this like a Visa or MasterCard kind of debit card?
Yeah, exactly. I think these were MasterCard. Maybe some of them were Visa too, but you can buy them at Target or wherever, and it's just a debit card. So you put $20 on there, $50 on there, whatever. Give it.
I think there's a fee though. I think there's some kind of fee there.
There is a fee. It's a small fee. It's like I think the $25 card was like $28 or something. So, but still, I mean, if it was my birthday and my mom asked me what I wanted, I'd say get one of those debit cards. Don't get me a gift card to Home Depot because maybe I go to Lowe's.
Mom,
So,
maybe I go to Lowe's, Mom.
maybe I go to Lowe's, Mom. See how well you really know me.
Interestingly, Apple, who's obviously very interested in making money. I mean, they just do gift cards, straight gift cards, right? Like just regular money, dollars. You buy the gift card, enter the code. That's it. It's kind of straightforward. It seems like that they would be just the kind of company that would do this coins or points or whatever, but they just kind of stuck with the straightforward. It does add a level of abstraction, and it does kind of lock you in, right?
Yeah.
In a way that's kind of weird.
So I have to amend my previous statement because I thought of a reason that I would actually like this is if you could go and buy these coins in physical stores so that users who don't have credit cards could go buy them and then go back into the store and use it. Because I know people who are able to afford maybe the Kindle Fire for an inexpensive amount of money, but don't have a regular credit card that they can keep filled. So if you could go in, pay cash for coins, and then have that associated with your Amazon account, then I'd be okay with this.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of why I brought up the whole gift certificate thing, because when gift certificates hit the Play Store not too long ago, I can't remember when it was a couple of months ago, but that was kind of the thing that people were touting about it. Great, I don't have a credit card, so I can get a gift certificate, and that can be the way that I buy it. This kind of seems along those same lines. It's just done in coins, but yeah, again, they aren't partitioning it out so that one coin is like a fraction of a dollar or whatever. They aren't making it confusing there. So I guess that makes it a little bit better. But yeah, it's kind of goofy.
It is.
The good news for anybody who sells something on Amazon, which I do because I have my app in the App Store, is that Amazon, to promote this, is going to give out a bunch of millions of coins to users, and people are presumably going to use those coins to buy apps, and that's revenue for people who are selling books or apps or whatever on Amazon. So for that, I'm grateful, I guess.
Absolutely.
What if Amazon, instead of a 1-for-1, usually, what if they gave you like an extra certain percentage? So what if they use this as a way to, I don't want to say bait people, but like what if they gave you bought $1 worth of coins, or you spent $1 and they gave you $1.10 in coins.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? To try to keep people in the ecosystem. Like then I can say,
then there's a little bit of benefit.
Now I'm getting something for my trouble. Now I'll actually go ahead and take the time to go do this middleman type of a deal, which is really not worth my time otherwise. So I don't know. That's the only way I can see it really making sense. And Amazon has the clout. They actually could do that. They could give you kind of like, how credit cards give you 1% back or something, when you're paying like 25%. So it doesn't matter. But, but people still are like, well, that's 1% I didn't have before, so I'll go do that card. Mm-hmm. So maybe it could be a similar type of thing. I don't know. We're probably spending too much time on this. If you like coins, go get the coins.
I think it's obviously an interesting topic.
Yeah. If you're a Zelda fan, it's right up your alley.
Yeah, there you go.
Go get the coins.
There you go. Well, this one won't take very long, but I think it addresses a couple of things that, and if Ron were here, I'm sure he'd be shouting from the rooftops on some of the fixes. Google Play updated to version 4.5. They bring a few kind of features, some of them kind of, debatable whether they're huge features, but they might address some of your complaints with Google Play, or with Play Music, rather. Instant mixes continue beyond 25 songs. I could see that being kind of an annoyance for Ron for some reason. Added ability to shuffle an album, artist, or playlist. New default album art, which, by the way, looks great. I always hated that old default stuff with the kind of the pastel-y colors and stuff. I always wondered. And I also wanted to be able to change it to my own, but I don't think you can do that. Previous button added to a widget. I know that's a big request by a lot of people. Why that wasn't in the widget. I think it was there and then it went away. And then pinning progress. Pinning in Google Music is always this kind of elusive thing where you start it and then it happens in the background and you don't know if it's happening or not or whatever. You can actually see that shown on the album and playlist pages now. So it's kind of more obvious exactly what's going on in pinning. So if you use Play Music, some updates there. I've definitely noticed the changes, and I thought they were helpful. So.
I love Play Music. One of the things I noticed, and I don't know whether it was part of this update or not, but I noticed that I used to be able to like on a particular artist, when I did a search and like you get like 5 choices would come up, you could click on the little arrow and then just hit play, and that's now gone. And you actually have to click on the artist, and then there's an option that says shuffle. So if you just want to listen to that artist, you hit shuffle. But there used to be a little thing where you'd hit the arrow, and it would actually say play, and it would just play right from there. Like it's one. It would play. I wouldn't have to go. It was one layer above where I would have to go normally.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that, and I kind of miss that but it's probably just because I was used to it. What they give you instead is they give you the add to queue option. So if you're already listening to something, you can hit the little arrow and then add it to the queue of music that you're playing, and it'll shuffle it in if you're in shuffle or whatever.
I see.
I don't know if that was part of this. It's not listed in the features, but I've noticed that they've been doing some work on Google Play Music, and I use it all the time. So I'm really glad that they're continuing to update it.
Yeah, they need to spend more time with the design of the app too, because it's got some old visual language to it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But this is interesting. XBMC for Android. While I was out, I didn't realize that the official version, I know we've talked about XBMC for Android on past episodes, but the actual official version was released.
Right.
And you have it.
I do. I've been running the release candidate for a while, actually, at home. And so there's really a couple of big things. This is Frodo. This is version 12 of XBMC. And this was really, they really hit the ball out of the ballpark with this release. They absolutely did release all the things. There's 3 really big features that they added for this particular release. One is they added back-end PVR support. So if you're running Myth TV, and there's some other ones, if you're running a PVR backend and you're recording your own media, your own TV, you can actually play it through XBMC, which is really cool because you weren't able to do that before. It doesn't make sense that you weren't able to, but you weren't. Now you are, so that's really cool. The other thing is they released a version for Raspberry Pi.
Cool.
So Raspberry Pi is really cool to run XBMC on. In fact, I'm going to put a TV up in my guest room and put a Raspberry Pi, right, a $35 Raspberry Pi, and let whoever, my guests watch TV up there off of XBMC. The final, and why it's related to this show, huge feature is they released a native client for Android. So I've actually got that running on my phone, and there we go, in the middle of the screen. It actually looks, it's not really designed to be run on a phone. If you ask the developers, they'll tell you it's really designed to be run on Android devices, not Google TV devices, interestingly enough, but Android devices like the new Arcos box, I think would be perfect for this. It's running Android 4.0. It's meant to be run on dedicated boxes connected to a big screen TV. That was their target for this release. But it does...
Possibly a Nexus Q rooted running Cyanogen mod,
we'll
just saying.
See. You never know. But it actually does run really well on tablets. I've run this. This is my Galaxy Nexus. It runs really well there. Also, it runs pretty well, actually much better, I should say, on my wife's Nexus 7 because it's got the quad-core processor, so it runs really well there. But you can see the interface is very, very familiar. If you're used to XBMC or if you're running the Frodo version, you'll see it's very, very familiar. And things that are in here, same things, movies and things like that. Since I just added this is Tron, for example. Since I just added it, it pops up above the bar there and says, do you want to run this? And you can see it's actually running there.
It looks very old school. Oh,
yeah, amazing. So you can see, it actually runs really well. And if I click on it, you can see the overlay comes up down here at the bottom.
Yeah.
You
can definitely tell with the interface, like it's meant for a larger screen.
It's meant for a larger screen. There's no doubt about it. But everything works. In fact, at home, I can even watch live TV on my wife's Nexus 7.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Streaming from the PVR, which is in a different room. So,
wow.
Yeah. So for those types of features, it works really well. And I think what they're getting at with this is, they want this to be the default interface for these types of boxes that are connected directly to a TV. They want this to be the interface that you use to watch your movies. And one really cool thing that they did was they actually, if you go to programs, they actually will pull in, it takes a little time because I've got so many apps, they pull in Android apps into the interface. So you can launch all your Android apps right from the interface. So if I click on Android apps, let's see if it'll do this quickly enough. Yeah, there it is. So, if I click on, what do I want to run here? Angry Birds, maybe. You can see as I scroll through, it actually pulls in the icons and everything. And I can click on that and it'll just go ahead and launch the app right from XBMC.
Nice.
So I thought that was a really good intuitive feature because they knew, okay, if we want people to be running these on the Android boxes, then we definitely want to at least give them the ability to run the apps that they have loaded, so that you never have to leave the interface, basically.
Right.
So yeah.
So this isn't in the Play Store.
It's not in the Play Store. I'm glad you brought that up. So if you go to the Play Store and you search for XBMC, you'll see an official XBMC remote, which works. It pairs with XBMC that you might be running on another box in your house. That is not the app. The app, you have to go to xbmc.org, and you'll see a Get It Now button on xbmc.org. If you click that, you can download the APK directly from wherever their mirrors are. Yep. And that's how you get the app. I tried to look... I know. I tried to look and see why that was. Like, I don't know if they're infringing on something, some
issue, or because with the Play Store, you get the push updates, right? That's the main thing. It's like when there's an upgrade, you find out right away versus having to check the APK, and also download the APK manually. You have to say allow unknown sources. Yeah. I'm dying to know why. It's interesting.
Yeah, I tried to look up in the Android. There's a FAQ for each of the versions to help you kind of get things going. And I tried to look up in the Android FAQ to see why that it wasn't in the Play Store. I'm sure I just didn't really Google search it very well, but there must be a reason why they can't put it in the Play Store yet.
It says yet, so that makes it sound like it will be at some point.
Yeah. That maybe they just have to work out some issues. I don't know. It's a fairly large download. I forget how big it was, but it was in the 100 megabyte range because it's a fairly large app with a lot of graphical overlays and things. So it's a pretty big APK file. But
51 megs.
51 meg. Thank you, Chad. Chad's on the ball. So yeah, but
Awesome.
that's it. I mean, I would encourage you, if you have a tablet, especially, it's not a bad interface for a tablet. And if you're already running a PVR at home, that makes a really, really good front end to watch all your recordings. It gives you little notifications, like I'm recording this next, or your PVR just finished recording this. I watched the Super Bowl on this, not on my phone, but I mean at home on XBMC. I watched the Super Bowl that way. It seems to work really, really well. They've done a really good job, and I can't believe the amount of new features that they put into this release. So
Nice.
Try it out.
I really want to install this on my Google TV. That's my other question: is why it's not why you can't install it on the Google TV.
I think it's because there's so many different. I'm guessing. I'm completely guessing here, but I think it's because there's so many different processors and chipsets involved in the various Google TV products. I think they would probably have to rewrite portions of it specifically for each Google TV device. They probably didn't want to go that route. And I think, frankly, they're betting on the next wave of devices that are skipping Google TV and going right to Android 4.0 and saying, you know what, people aren't maybe as interested in connecting to their cable box as we thought. So, something for the cord cutters amongst us.
So Plex or XBMC for you now, Aaron? What's your pick?
XBMC for sure. Not only because Plex does charge you. I mean, you have to buy Plex, and you have to run a Plex server at home. XBMC really makes a good front end. If you want to connect, if you've got, for example, music or videos at home already running on a UPnP capable device or a server, you can connect to those really, really easily in XBMC already. So, maybe you've got like one of those Western Digital hard drives that stores all your movies or TV shows or something. You can connect to that really easily and just stream them right to your device in XBMC without having to run the Plex server in the background. So for me, it's XBMC. And plus, I really like to support the community. I mean, this is an open source project, and they've done some really amazing things. I mean, they basically launched Boxy, right? Boxy would not be around if it weren't for XBMC. So
and I think Plex is a fork of XBMC. Isn't Plex based on XBMC?
I think it is. It's
official, right? I mean, XBMC has really had so many different forks. It does feel good to support the main branch, right? Like the original.
Exactly. And I don't feel like I'm sacrificing anything by doing that in this case. Sometimes when the forks go off and they do these great things, you're like, "Ooh, that's great. I really love that, but I really love these features of the other platforms." But in XBMC's case, they've really innovated and kept up with things really well. So, I don't feel like I'm missing any cool features by not running the forks.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks. Run the forks.
Thanks for showing that, because XBMC on Android has been long rumored and a long time coming, and it's cool to see it running. I actually love how small everything is on the phone, even though it might be just a little too small to use regularly.
Right.
But it just reminds me of like 10 years ago getting a laptop with what was then a high definition display and shrinking it because my eyes hadn't grown 10 years older, and now I can't see text that small.
Right.
But then I could, and it was like, get everything on the screen as small as possible so I can fit more on the screen at once.
Yep.
It takes me back. All right, so real quick, let's answer an email here. Ryan Mudry writes in and says, I'm a big fan of the show. I love the addition of Gina. We all do. I am a high school teacher, and I have a grade book app idea that I would like to turn into a reality, but I don't know a thing about programming. So I'm looking to you guys for the best resources I can use to get started. I've started with the Android developer tutorials, but feel like those assume some prior knowledge while I am looking for a lot more hand-holding. Thanks for your help, and keep up the good work. I've said it before, I'm not a developer. I'm not sure exactly the best place to start if you're starting from ground zero, like you know absolutely nothing, but I thought the timing was kind of interesting here. There was a Reddit post, I believe yesterday, by a person, a Redditor, who was creating an Android app and basically created a public Google Doc with every single resource that this person used to create his first Android app. There's a link to it in the show notes at twit.tv/AAA. Look for it there. And, the doc is just very full of links and reading resources and stuff. And if it's everything that this person used to start an app, I have to imagine there's some good stuff in there for getting started from scratch. It's just a really interesting and valuable resource. And this person was able to use all of this stuff to create an app. I imagine you could too. So timing's great. I don't know, Gina, did you happen to take a glance through this list and recognize anything?
This list is incredible. There, I mean, really, Android. I've had this question before. Is how do I get started with an Android app? And my advice is always just like go to the official Google Docs are great. Find the Hello World app, and just get to that point, right? And fortunately, starting to learn programming on Android, it's a pretty steep. I'm going to be honest, it's a pretty steep learning curve.
Yes.
Like, so you write Android apps in Java, and I actually think that Java is an excellent learning language because it's object oriented, so you learn really good, good best practices right away, and it's strongly typed and that kind of thing. But to use Java and particularly to develop for Android, you have to set up Eclipse, which is this IDE, and then you set up the SDK. I mean, just getting your development environment set up is a trek. That's going to be an hour or two, and then there's like all the Android design stuff. It's a steep learning curve, right? I mean, that's why things like Code Academy, which is tries to teach people to program, they start with easy stuff like JavaScript, where you just need basically a text file and a browser. You change the text file, you reload it in the browser, you can do it. But if you're interested in mobile app development, I mean, this document is awesome, and really the official Google documentation, the developer.android.com, is a perfect place to start. And I mean, my recommendation is always just like get to Hello World, and then work from there.
Yep. I like that. And the doc does a great job. It even has a column on skill level: beginner, intermediate, advanced, and it just covers all the points. So a great resource for anyone thinking about getting into developing for Android. Check it out. The link will be in the show notes, twit.tv/AAA95 for episode 95. Check it out. All right, let's get into the arena.
So many enter, but only one lives. Android Arena.
Man, last week's arena is down to the wire. I mean, it came right down to the wire. So I wasn't here. Kevin Purdy was filling in for me with a simple calendar widget, which looks like it's at third place at 32%. Ron, second place, tracked this for me at 34%. Gina, home flip, first place, 34%, but with 2 more votes than tracked this for me.
2 votes. By 2 votes.
I checked this earlier this afternoon, and I mean, it was just as close. It's obviously, I love it when arena ends up this close, because obviously everybody found value in different things. And so that means 3 powerful, strong apps in the arena. So you win again, Gina.
Yeah, at the beginning of the I lost really badly last week, so I feel like it's redemption. But at the beginning of the show, I checked the poll results, and Ron and I were even, dead even. So thank you to the 2 people who put me ahead.
Right on. Well, let's see if we can make a repeat and, give you 3 difficult apps to choose from this time. Difficult in the sense that they're all awesome. Okay, so I'll go first because I wasn't here last week. So that would put me at the top and put the pressure on me to perform here. And I'm going to cover an app that I actually used on my trip to Washington, D.C. I had to take a lot of pictures with my camera, and we were talking earlier about the Galaxy Nexus camera, not quite always performing up to snuff. And the one issue that I've had with it, and I'm sure this is the same case with a lot of cameras in phones, is that the one picture that I'm able to snap off isn't quite timed perfectly. Like, it's just a little bit past or a little bit before the perfect moment. When I was reviewing the Droid HTC Droid DNA, it had a mode for burst shooting, and I loved it. And I just had never had that on one of my cameras on my phones, and went looking, came up with Fast Burst Camera. There's a free version as well as a $3.99 version. And I can just kind of go ahead and demonstrate that right now. I have the video hopefully passing through MHL. All right, so first of all, there's this little thing down here where you can there's Chad way over there, where you can select the delay between shots. I think I had it set at half a second. If I hold down this gray button, let's see here. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, it happens almost immediately. Let me turn up the volume because, I guess volume takes pictures too. Just discovered that one. Never mind. Okay, so if I go ahead and bring that all the way down to no delay. Wow. And I mean, it's taking all those photos. I think it is less resolution, but I'm not sure exactly how much less because the photos seem fine to me when I've looked at them on the monitor. So I'm not sure. And to be honest, I probably should have pulled them in and analyzed for the pixel count, but I didn't. But so I think they say that on some older camera hardware, they have to ramp that resolution down in order to get that fast, kind of snapping. But I mean, it works really well. And oftentimes I just got in the habit of pulling this out to take those photos. The downside, I would say, is that you later kind of have to sift through them and go, okay, which of all of these is the best shot? Because you probably don't want 20 shots that all look almost identical, but not quite. But I thought it was great. When you take all the photos, there's a little progress meter down on the bottom left where it's saving the photos because it's doing a lot in a short amount of time. So the one downside I would say is that while it's saving those photos, it can slow some things down because it's happening in the background and everything. But you'll see up at the top there as well all of your typical, your standard kind of camera settings. You have your switch around front and your exposure level and all of that. So the things that you would expect to find on a camera app, but ultimately it's just kind of a good way to take lots of pictures really fast and hopefully you end up getting the right one. So right now I'm pulling up one of it groups them, by the way. So if I hold down my finger and take 7 photos in this case, it groups all of those together, and then I can actually go back to the gallery and choose another group as well.
Do you have to hold it steady? I mean, have you tried, moving around? Is it really susceptible to blur and things like that?
I didn't notice much blur, but maybe I just was holding steady to begin with. And I will say, I took a lot of pictures of my daughter, and she's 3, so she's running around a lot. And
she's running around, and they looked okay.
Yeah, they look fine.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they look good to me.
I just bought this because I'm gonna test this out on my 4-month-old.
Awesome. No, I mean that's exactly why I'm happy to find this, because if you're taking pictures of your kid, chances are if you're just taking it with a single snap, you're not going to get it. This way, you just hold it down. It's like, do whatever crazy thing it is that you're doing right now, and I'll pick later the best one, and there's a great one in there.
And then the other question I had is, do you need to does it need to focus first? Because I'm assuming if it doesn't have time to refocus in between shots, so I'm guessing you have to focus pretty well before you.
Yeah, I suppose so. If you take a look, Chad, top left screen is the little focus button, so you can just tap that and it'll focus to it. But I'll be honest, I didn't really do that a whole lot. I just opened it up and I was like, I got to get this really quick, and hold it down, and boom, and I got it. So
it always seems to be kind of a delay with me. It's just, you can see it, the built-in camera app kind of figuring out where. Part of the shot to focus on. It's like, no, just take the picture, here's her face, do it,
Right.
Tons of pictures of my daughter's head. She's not running yet, but she turns her head, so I have this blurry face, turning or whatever.
I have that problem too.
Where to focus.
Yeah, I do the same thing, and I have a problem because I try to time it so that you can focus it ahead of time, because if you focus it ahead of time and then you take a bunch of shots, it'll do it really quick. But the problem is if you focus it and then you wait too long and then it has to refocus, and it's like, oh, come on, And I know that there's settings that you can override that and all that, but it's just who has time? Who thinks ahead of time to do that? You just want to pull it out and go. So I think that's great for that. That seems to work really well.
Yeah, and it's not it's not a bad interface for taking pictures. Maybe it's not as beautiful as the kind of stock camera experiences, but the trade-off is there, and it was really effective on the trip. So that's Fast Burst Camera. Check it out on the Play Store. All right, Aaron, or AA Ron.
Double A Ron, that's what they call me.
You're up next.
Oops, got to unlock this thing. There we go. So my app this week is Reddit Free, or Reddit News Free. This is an app. I'm a big Redditor, as it were, and usually I just go to the website or whatever. But lately I've been probably a couple months ago, I was like, this just isn't. It's clunky, the interface. I wish I could see the pictures all the time, and sometimes you can't see them. So I said, well, there's got to be a good Android app. So I went out and tested 3 or 4 of them, and the one that I picked was Reddit News, and there's a free version and a paid version. Free version has ads. The paid version is $1.99, so you choose your pain. Let me open this up and show you. Oh, you know what? I've never used this in landscape, so this will be interesting. And it'll also be interesting to see what's on the screen because you never know what's on Reddit. So
That is true.
let me try to pick a safe bet here. You can see that the images come up really quick. Again, I'm just a little bit hesitant to click on some of these.
Oh, Reddit.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so you can see if you click on an image instead of clicking on the post, it'll actually just pull up the image and let you look at the image, and then if you click again, it'll get rid of it. Let's just scroll down a little bit here. So the other thing is when you click on a post, it'll pull up the post, and when you're in portrait mode, it's really nice because you can see that there's a line. Right now, it's on the right-hand side. It allows you to upvote, downvote, check out that user's profile. The little globe goes directly to the it'll pull up your browser and go to that link instead of pulling it up in the built-in browser in the app, which, by the way, is really good. They did an awesome job of implementing a browser inside this app. But then if you actually swipe, if you kind of start there at that little bar and swipe over, it'll go right over to comments. And then you can flick through the comments and see what the comments are. And, typical things work here. Like if I click on a comment, it'll actually, hide the comments below that one if I don't care about that anymore, which is really nice in Ask Me Anything posts. And then to go back, you can just swipe that bar back again and you'll go back to the picture or whatever the link is that they're showing. And then from there, you just go back and you can continue to browse through the links. The other thing I like about it is, I don't know if this is a bug or a feature, but it works for me. So I really like the fact that if I exit out, the app doesn't close. It kind of stays resident, which is nice because I might you be working on something and just need a break. So I go and I look at Reddit for a little while, maybe click on a few things. You can see it turns the visited links gray. And then I'll exit out and I'll go do something else and I'll come back. The nice thing is it kind of remembers that state so you can stay where you are. I know a lot of people, want to know what the latest posts are, but for me, Reddit moves so fast that I was like, oh, I saw these things that I wanted to click on, and now they're gone, they're buried.
Right. Yeah.
So it's nice that it kind of keeps the status for you at least until you refresh. And I don't know if that's a setting or you could probably change it, but I actually really like that because then I can go back and I can kind of pick up where I left off, so to speak. And when I'm ready to refresh, I just hit the refresh button and I'm there. So you can also submit posts from here, but I didn't find that functionality to be the best necessarily because you can't attach images and things like that. So it's not really for submitting, but you can browse any of the subreddits you want. You can actually, you can look at user profiles, you can search for things. It's a really good implementation to Reddit, and I think it's one of the better ones out there. If you don't care about some of these functionalities, there are a lot of other Reddit clients available on the market, but I would highly suggest checking this one out. That's Reddit News Free or Reddit News, and you pay $1.99. So it's up to you.
Cool. It's good design. Reddit apps are a lot like Twitter apps in that there is just a ton of them out there. There's likely to be one that you find that you're like, this is the one that speaks.
This is the one that suits me. And then, someone else might be like, oh, you're crazy. I like this other one.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, very similar.
Awesome. I like the look of that.
It's nice because it's not overcrowded. It's not overloaded with extra stuff. It's just it kind of gets you what you want to see right away. And then, the rest is up to you. So
right. All right. Awesome. So that is Reddit News Free. And Gina, you have one that I know a lot of people find very interesting, and I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about it. I have it on my phone, so while you're talking about it, I can show it off.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, speaking of Twitter apps, Carbon for Twitter dropped just this week. That's the new Twitter client on Android we've been talking about for a couple of weeks, actually, on the show. It's finally available after being promised for, 6 or 7, 8 months now. And this is not to be confused with Carbon, the backup app, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago. In fact, I think the Carbon backup app, I believe that is not the final name of that app. I think that developer is going to rename that app. This is Carbon for Twitter, which is in the Play Store. It is free, and I'm one of those people that is just not satisfied with any Twitter client on Android. I tried using the official Twitter client, and the notifications just weren't good enough. I tried Falcon Pro. I tried Plume. I felt like all of them were just really cluttered, really busy, and just frankly kind of ugly. I admit it. I'm a little bit of a design snob, which is why I picked Carbon, because the best part about Carbon, it is gorgeous. Your home timeline just looks really nice. It's got this dark background. It has relative dates on your tweets. It's just really easy on the eyes. Very, like, just designed very well for readability. That's the first thing I love about it. Second thing I love about it is that's a switch between your timeline and your mentions and your direct messages, which is the thing that I do the most. You just swipe to the left and right, very TweetDecky in that kind of way, right? So it's just you don't have to tap and bring the menu and then tap the thing you want. No, you just swipe over, which is really super nice. It's got multiple account support. It shows images in line, even images and videos, even images that Twitter doesn't support natively. So Instagram, for example, those images show up in line in Carbon. Let's see, it's got rich notifications, which means when you get a mention or when you get a message, you see the contents of that message. You see the people who did those mentions kind of in your notifications bar. Let's see what else. To get to the design is beautiful. It's not exactly Android-y though. I mean, there's things about it that this app Carbon actually launched on WebOS first and then went to Windows Phone and now is on Android. And so you could tell that the touch interface is not exactly Android-y, right? So you kind of have to discover that there's things you have to discover about it. So one of the things you saw right there, Jason, like if you look at a conversation, for example, if you tap on a tweet and then you go to a conversation, it kind of like it loads this like beautiful, it kind of takes the graphic and it does some really beautiful things, but you have to play with it and kind of discover how to use it essentially. And in fact, earlier today, Jason, you said to me, the thing that annoyed me about Carbon, I couldn't just fly up to the top of my home timeline really quickly. And it turns out with a 2-finger double swipe up, you can do that, right? So I feel like I've been using it for only a couple of days now, and I'm still like learning and seeing new things that you can do with it.
It works down as well, by the way.
It works down as well to go down to the last thing that you read. Yeah. Let's see. It's got 15-minute refresh. That's not configurable, right? So it checks your Twitter every 15 minutes. So I saw some people complaining that they wish that could be configurable. 15 minutes is fine with me, but I can see how that's kind of annoying. One other annoying thing, there's no tablet support. I actually initially downloaded this on my Nexus 7 and then launched the app. It let me download it. And then I launched the app and it said, sorry, no tablet support. That's a really crappy experience. So this is only on your phone only, but it's got great support for lists and for searches and for trending hashtags, and it's just really well designed throughout. And you can see you have that tilt effect that Jason's showing right now. You pull down to refresh, which is a pretty common touchscreen gesture, and it's free. So if you're looking for a new Twitter app, Carbon for Twitter. Yeah. It's only for new devices, so it's let's see. I think it's 4.0 and above.
Oh yeah, I didn't check in on that.
It's it requires Android 4.0 and up.
Okay, yeah. I mean the design on this is beautiful in a lot of different ways. I think I've been using it for about 3 days now. I think when I first saw the news breaking, I was like, all right, suspend Plume. Start Carbon, and let's really kind of get a sense for it. And it's really strange. Up until this morning, when I went on Twitter and I was like, here's my short review, I'm just not into you. And almost within like the next 2 hours, something changed. I'm not sure if I just like got it or whatever. I think the 2-finger swipe thing really alleviated one of my big frustrations, because it was like, why do I have to keep swiping down to get up to the top? And then the 2-finger thing, like you wouldn't know that unless somebody told you or they spelled it out, which they don't spell it out. Or maybe they did and I just completely missed it. I probably did.
That's something I really like about my app. Because they actually have a tutorial the first time you start it up, and it tells you like all the things that I walked through. It tells you how to do it. It's like click here and swipe this way to do this, and it takes you through about I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 different things to teach you the interface first.
Right.
And so when you get in there, you know what you're doing right away. So I thought, and I've seen more and more apps in the marketplace that require a little bit of figuring out, start to do that. Like you can gesture this way for this, or you can do this for that the very first time you run the app. And I think that's great. I think it's, kudos to developers that actually give people a little bit of tutorial first to kind of show them the ropes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you can long tap on tweets as well to kind of perform actions on them in the timeline.
Oh, right.
them and go to a new. But yeah, I completely agree, and that I think the gesture discoverability. I think that's really up to the developer to help teach her users or his users, what's going on here. With Carbon, it's really kind of trial and error.
Mm-hmm. And maybe they'll add that later. Hopefully they do, because I think it's well worth it, especially when there's unique things. I mean, gesture ability in a smartphone or other touch device gives you so many things that you can do. You can touch the corners. You can swipe left. You can swipe, you 3-finger swipe, whatever. So, I mean, I think it's really needed, especially when you have custom, unique ways of interfacing with the application that aren't necessarily standard.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. This is Carbon's first release, and it kind of blew me away. Like it's really nice, and I'm a big fan of like really well designed Android apps, even if they're not, they don't perfectly align with Google's design standards, because it's just like, oh, this is a really, really nice app. that's not an official Google app. That launched on Android. I think that's just great for the platform. So I'm hoping that they continue to iterate it and add different new features. I've got all kinds of little pet features I would love to see. And I feel like this kind of blew me away for our first release.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful app. And I love the fact that they did it in black. I don't know if that's a feature you can change, but, black is really good. It saves battery life because you don't have to necessarily light all those pixels. Which is great. And also I find it easier to read. And it's especially like I'm not a big Twitter person. I usually stick to Google Plus, but I can imagine like if you're in a dark environment or something, maybe you're covering an event, or you're hopefully not in a movie theater doing this. Nobody does that, right? But you can pull it out and you can actually get to your app, and it doesn't blind everybody when you pull it up. So
yeah, totally. One little interesting feature, Chad, if you take the screen for a second, when you're updating your timeline, if you choose to do a photo, there's an option for last taken. So I think that's kind of a cool little
shortcut.
Yeah, a little shortcut, because so many times like I'll take a photo, and if I didn't do it in the proper order or directly from the app, then I got to go in there, go to the gallery, pick the last photo, and do it. And this is just like, yep, just take that.
Navigate through the gallery.
Yeah, great idea. It's a great idea.
Totally. So that is Carbon for Twitter, not the backup one by Clockwork Mod Couch. This is Carbon for Twitter. So great arena. Once again, I think these are 3 excellent apps. I'm curious to know what you guys think. You can vote for your favorite app this week by going to aaapoll.com/95 for episode 95. AAApoll.com/95 and let us know which is your favorite. Fast Burst Camera, Reddit News Free, or Carbon for Twitter. And the early reports are in. Fast Burst Camera, 4 votes to Carbon 3, votes. But it's really early, and it's
there we
gonna
go.
be a close
I'm getting
race.
some
There
love
we go.
now.
Boom. All right, we'll follow this. Let you know how that turns out next week. How's that for a tease? That's it for this week. I don't think we have any more news. We've talked about everything there is to talk about ever.
There's nothing more to know.
Nothing more to know. Other than how awesome it was having you on the show.
Hey,
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much
having me. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's
I don't know,
been
a couple
a little
months
while
or something. So
it's early December, I think. What you got going on?
Everything under the sun. If you want to know what I'm up to, definitely go to Google Plus and add me to your circles. I'm Aaron Newcomb everywhere, though. So if you're a Twitter fan or a Facebook fan, you can find me there. All my stuff gets posted on Facebook, Twitter, and Google Plus. But if you want to have a conversation with me, you can only do it on Google Plus. So follow me there and make the switch. Google Plus is now number 2 social network behind Facebook, so it's gaining ground.
Google Plus is excellent for community conversation.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. Gina, how about you?
Yeah, I just hope everyone will check out the app to do txt.com now that the development has kind of picked up again. And I also co-host This Week in Google, which airs on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific. I hope you'll check that out. And everything else I'm up to, you just go to ginatrapani.org, because I'm a human, to see all that. And thanks a lot to Aaron, and it's great to have you back, Jason.
Is org for organization or organism?
That's what I was wondering. As she said that, I'm thinking back, wait a second, what was it? No. It was organization, I'm sure.
It is organization, yeah.
Chad, I know you were a little trigger happy there. What do you want to plug?
I meant to go to the wide, and I slipped, and there's a random shot of me just going. I do a Minecraft show called OMG Craft. You can go to omgcraft.com and check that out. And then I do stuff all over the Twit network. This sort of stuff for Twit, Twig, MacBreak Weekly, and so on.
And a great job he does, too.
Thank you.
That is very, very true. Thank you, Chad. You can find me at about.me/Jason Howell or on Twitter. I am at Jason Howell. I'm also on Google Plus, and I love the Google Plus community, so find me there as well. That is it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in or downloading or however you caught the show this week. We love having you along. Leave us a voicemail. 347-SHOW-AAA is the number. We love to hear from you, or you can send us an email or a video mail. Just attach a video link into an email and send that to AAA@twit.tv. You can find the show, All About Android, on Twitter. It's at Android Show. You can find our show notes at twit.tv/AAA. You also find all of our back episodes there, as well as places like iTunes, YouTube, all over the internets. And finally, you can catch us live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific at live.twit.tv. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week for another episode of All About Android. Bye.